Welcome back to the Pastor's Podcast, the first podcast of 2023. That's right. And I am joined here by Laurie Miller and Nancy John. Hey, guys.
Hello.
So excited to have you guys kind of kick off the year with us. And the topic, drum roll, of our conversation. So we're going to be talking a little bit about Claris Health. And we do so each time this time of year. It's a bit of a kind of tradition in the church at large, but it's also just a great opportunity for us, an excuse for us to get to highlight the work that the Lord's doing there. But before we do that, before we jump in, could you guys just introduce yourselves? So Nancy, you've been on the podcast before. I know, you're a little bit known, but
I'm a pro now.
You're a pro. That's
Yes.
right. A veteran, a podcast veteran. And you've been on staff here since July.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
And been involved in our counseling ministry for years and years and years. But before that, can you share a
Yes.
little bit about what you were doing before that?
Before that, I was working at Claris. I was working for 7 years, and August would have been my 8th year.
Okay.
Which is kind of interesting that Laurie came on in August, so it's a passing of the mantle. Definitely. At Claris, I was patient care manager, where I was just overseeing different women in different stages of their pregnancy, pretty much at the beginning, but in different areas of decision making, whether they were a little terrified or undecided or really excited about going forward with their pregnancy, and just walking them through that and helping them unravel the different complications that were going on in their life at that time, minimizing the crisis feeling that they were experiencing, and giving them medical care, passing them off to the many variety of programs that Claris offers them.
Awesome.
It's a very wonderful, very transforming, very emotional place to live, but also very celebratory as you see people transforming them from fear into actually carrying their pregnancy to term, and feeling supported through Cornerstone, partnering with the parenting program that's here on the campus. It was such a privilege to have so many resources at our fingertips to be able to come alongside these women instead of just saying, you should.
Yeah. So awesome. So I want to get into all that. You touched on a bunch of things.
I know.
A bunch of things we're going to jump into. But before we do, I want Laurie, this is your first podcast. This is your first pastor's podcast.
I'm like, this is
first podcast.
This is wild.
Well, thank you so much for doing this. Really appreciate it. So how long have you been here at Cornerstone now?
My goodness, 4.5 years.
4.5
It'll
years.
be 5 years. Oh gosh, it'll be 5 years in February.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
Awesome.
It's been amazing.
That's so super exciting. And you are currently on staff with Claris.
Yes, I am. Mm-hmm.
What's your role there?
I'm the patient services director, so I oversee all 3 clinics.
Okay.
The mobile clinic, the Linwood clinic, and the West LA clinic, in addition to also being the manager of the West LA clinic. So I do a lot, like similar to what Nancy was talking about. I do counseling with the women who come through in different stages of their pregnancy, and helping guide them and hold space for them and help them process through their decision making and what they want to do, and also guiding them on the resources that Claris provides as well.
Yeah.
And then I do the overseeing of the clinic. So I'm there to make sure that all the clinics are running smoothly and that patient care is going well across the board. And I have 2 women that I supervise that are the managers at the mobile clinic and the Linwood clinic, that they come to me. So it's pretty cool. It's a new leadership role for me, coming from where I came from before, working at the Children's Hospital. I was primarily focused on patient care, and that was my main focus. And now the Lord is really using me in ways working muscles that I didn't even know I had, or were there lying dormant. And God's just like, nope, we're just going to grow you. So
that's so cool.
In new ways. Yeah.
Oh, so exciting. Okay. So I actually want to talk a little bit more about that. Like I mentioned, I want to talk a bit about that journey and see like the Lord's hand in all of this. But we've kind of just provided a bit of an introduction to how you've both been involved. We got to take a step back though, because some people maybe hearing like they've heard a bunch of things and are trying to grasp and figure out what Claris is, even as they're listening. Claris is a longtime partner of ours in the city of LA as a church. Personally, I know you've all been involved. I was on the board for years. And so I know we've all been really involved with it, but maybe we can share a little bit about what the mission of Claris is. I think some of the things that you've said and even mentioned, people are like, oh, I know what Claris is. It must be one of those pregnancy clinics, one of those pregnancy centers. Like what is the mission of Claris and how is it kind of unique in the pregnancy space?
I would say that it's unique in the variety of ways they come alongside a woman who's pregnant. They can offer the initial pregnancy confirmation. They can offer the 9-month care if they qualify. Mm-hmm. They offer a whole entire parenting program. Mm-hmm. Besides that can support them in a lot of different ways for the first 5 years of the child's life. So it's not a program that just takes care of them medically, but also mentally and emotionally, which makes them very unique. They offer additional women's health besides just the pregnancy, so that they are a place where they can come for a myriad of things, as well as counseling, which was my love. Just being able to counsel and have someone listen to their story is huge, because women don't get to go to a medical doctor and sit and tell them their story, which is a huge part of their healing, which is a huge part of their physical health.
So, okay, that's super helpful. That's a great glimpse into what makes Claris unique. Laurie, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
What's the elevator pitch answer? Like if somebody just asks you, oh, where you work at Claris, what's Claris?
Oh my goodness.
What's your quick answer?
Well, Claris means clarity. Okay. So we are there to walk alongside and equip individuals through before, during, and after their pregnancy and sexual health choices. So I'm there to guide and support women who are going through unplanned pregnancies in various stages of the pregnancy, and helping them process and helping them get clarity as to what they want to do with the pregnancy, and ultimately letting them know the support that is provided by the agency. And a lot of them come in and don't know that all the resources that Claris provides. And I hear so many women come through going, this is the most unique place I've ever come to.
So powerful. That's what stands out to me, and what I just love about Claris so much is that it's entering into this space where in our world and our culture, there's a ton of confusion, right? The pregnancy space, and even just the idea of, so starting with the conviction that every life, even in utero, is important and valued to God, while coupling it with the conviction that every life, which means including a father, which means including the mother who's carrying that child, are uniquely valuable and important to God. How do we care for people in that space, particularly in a way where the topics around pregnancy are oftentimes wielded in culture wars, and both children and mothers become, weapons in that war, as opposed to image bearers to care for, to meet and to walk through some of the most difficult moments and decisions of their lives. And so what I love about Claris is both it engages that, but then also provides, and I think what you both hit on, that holistic care, right? Holistic care, that this isn't, we are passionately concerned with the choices people make with their pregnancies, with the with the implications of that, we're also not singularly concerned because nothing ever exists in a vacuum, right? We care about the whole person, the whole life, the whole, and so in that sense, yeah.
I think too, you hit upon something that is also unique to them is that it's not just about the woman.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Clarissa's care is not just reaching out, they're reaching out to the whole family. So the whole family becomes part of their care, part of the umbrella that is open to receive any kind of care or counseling. The men can come in for counseling. The fathers, the husbands are all part of the process of care for the family. So,
and I love, I mean, what you said too. I think that's exactly it. And what you said, Laurie, was that it cares for men and women before, during, and after their pregnancy and sexual health choices. And so, regardless of what those choices are, right, there's support if someone, and, you know, obviously Clarice does not, maybe not obviously, but Clarice does not perform or refer for abortions. But if that's something someone chooses, that doesn't end the support, doesn't end the care, because as we know, every human is going to desperately need care after that choice, and especially a lifeline to the redemptive promises of God.
Absolutely. I mean, there's, regardless of what the choice the woman makes in terms of the baby, there is support. And I let women know, the women who come through, who are really very much about termination, that we are always there for them, and that we are still there to support them. If they want to come back for counseling, or if, we have a post-abortion support program that women can come to, because I do get calls from the women who have decided to terminate, saying this is a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. But the fact that they feel safe enough to call back to Clarice is just a testament to how Clarice holds space in a way where the woman doesn't feel like she's, like it's not punitive, or there's not a judgment. You know, there's this, yes, we believe in the sanctity of life, absolutely. And there's a lot of gray, you know, that I realize, like there's so much gray. I'm not in that woman's shoes. And just the fact that she knows that she can come back and feel safe enough to come back is it's one of the most beautiful things I think about Clarice. Of just, because you can go to a lot of other places and they do they terminate and that's it. And then they send them home, and Clarice is, we are still here for you.
Yeah.
Because we know that it's going to be, there's going to be a lot of feelings and stuff that are probably going to come up.
And one of the things that I really appreciate actually about what you just said, it reminds me, I think what's unique about Clarice's approach and presence in this space and in our city is that sometimes we recognize that there's more gray than we thought, right? And things are more gray. But even when they're not gray, when things are black and white, there is grace, right? So maybe it's an appreciation that things are more complicated than even dynamics are more complicated. But even when we are talking about, in a sense, like truth and life and things like that, where difficult decisions, well, like in all of our lives, right? Where decisions for ourselves instead of God are made, they can be met with the offer of grace and the hope of redemption. And which ultimately is also, I think, fascinating, both cares for people after and in the cycle of things, is also preventative for the ways in which cycles can get perpetuated.
Exactly.
Throughout life and throughout generations. So, okay. So we could talk about all those and those dynamics, and we could, but I want to, and I want to come back to what excites you most about Clarice. But before we do, I want to hear a little bit, I want to weave into this a little bit of your stories and how the Lord brought you to serve at Clarice, and just a testimony of his goodness and and kindness over the last few years. Actually, Nancy, can we start with you? And just how do you sum up 8 years of this? But like, how did you see the Lord working in both your time with Clarice and your continued involvement and connection to them now?
I think one of the first things, is kind of Laurie touched on it, is that the media and the culture of our community speaks to abortion of like it's another way of prevention. Just kind of very cavalier. And I didn't know much about exactly the trials of women in pregnancy. I wasn't exposed to that until I started working with Claire's. And so to see women who were even adamant about coming in for an abortion, just the fact that we would sit and talk with them for a few minutes, the guard would come down and you could see it was still a really difficult decision. And that was impacting to me, thinking we were going to be faced with all of these people who just wanted to snap their fingers and get the termination and get the confirmation that they were pregnant and go get whatever procedure. But it's just the opposite. They're dying to have someone listen to them, to someone to feel and understand the situation they're in. And it becomes very complicated very quickly, even with those who are adamant. And for those, to be able to just look them in the eye and just love them and say, okay, let's get you going with medical, but we are always here for you. If you need to talk about this afterwards, we are here for you. And like you said, that grace, and seeing God's grace, even though they may not know that I'm a Christian, they may not know that I'm praying for them as I'm listening to their story, that God is working in them. They don't understand that, but we understand that God is working in them even at that moment that they're unaware. And that was such a huge tide to me, in that these women that were having these difficult stories, I could see God transform their heart in the midst of just being there to listen to their story, just being there to let them know there is support if you want to go forward. There are these things in place that we can care for you. That has tied me to them in such a way, because it's this constant cycle of seeing God work. It is he's got his hand in it. I know he finds favor, even though we don't come down on them and say, we don't give them all the horror stories of what termination. We don't give them all the whys they shouldn't. We don't give them a sanctity of life sermon, but we just continue to love them and speak truth to them as much as possible, speak love and support to them as much as possible. And that goes a really long way to turning them. But again, like you said, at the end of the day, if they go through with it, a lot of times they do come back, and it breaks that cycle because they remember there's this place that maybe I don't have to do this termination again.
Yeah. So how, so the Lord brought you to Clarice and to this work, kind of seeing and really showing it to you in some different ways. How did you see the redemption of, let me ask you, but how did you see the redemption of the gospel in like that? Is there opportunities for it in the like post-abortion care? Is it in the connection with the local church? Like how does that fit into in a sense, community organization like Clarice doesn't have an explicit evangelistic mission?
I would say it's probably primarily through the abortion support of those women that have actually gone through it. And the community at large, the like cornerstone churches that women have gotten involved in since they've had an abortion. But just being able to come through that support, that program actually is a very biblical-based support. And everybody who comes into it, whether they're Christian or have a different faith, understand that this is a biblical support system that they're coming into. And it completely teaches the redemption at the cross. It teaches the gospel. It teaches God's love and forgiveness, because that you have women coming in. There was one group I facilitated where we had a woman who had had her abortion 30 years before and had never really gotten over it, had never really forgiven herself. She had a family. She was married, had a great family. She loved the Lord, but this was always in her heart. The only person who knew about it was her husband. Nobody else in her life knew about it. So these women are coming, and rarely have they told anybody else. So for however long, they have carried this sin in their heart. And when people say, oh, God is using you and God loves you, in their mind, they say, yes, but you don't know. And so when they come through and they hear the story of everyone else in this group, and they walk through the gospel, and they finally receive and release this sin.
Yeah.
And it's amazing.
It's so cool. And I think it's so powerful directly in that way. And it's so powerful in the connections. I see in the connections, because then on the other side, like parenting support is deeply connected into the life of the church and volunteers and individuals that get connected. Jose's just starting up a Bible study, right? With
the parents.
Yeah, with some parents in Spanish.
Yes, yeah.
Right? There's so many different connections.
Yes.
And what I love about that is I think sometimes nonprofits or parachurch organizations can try to duplicate the work of the church. And in Claris has a clarity, I don't know, pun intended, but of mission, and like, no, this is why we're here. And we serve this purpose for women in this situation. And that provides an open door, right, to the gospel, an open door to the life of the church. But we're not like duplicating, right? There's a power, there's more there. We could talk about that even on a theoretical level, but that's just so powerful and so beautiful. Okay, so Laurie, I want to hear a little bit about your story, because you got involved with Claris just in the last year, and you were a nurse before that.
Social
right?
worker.
Social worker. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I knew that.
That's all right.
It's
all right.
You were at Children's.
I was at Children's
Hospital, right? Yeah. And so I'd love to hear how the Lord brought you to this, and how you've seen Him working in bringing you to this new role, and what that's meant for your life and heart.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. God really moved in this whole process. I had been at Children's for almost 8 years, and I was starting to feel, just a little bit emotionally depleted and tired. And I had been talking to God a lot about, whether I was going to stay, open a door. If you want me to stay at Children's, please show me. If you don't, then show me. I was really asking God, because working at a hospital during the pandemic there was a lot of fatigue. I was just tired. I was tired, and I was feeling this call to perhaps do something different. And I was hanging out with a friend at Cornerstone one day, and we were talking, and I was telling her a little bit about how I was feeling, and just, she said, oh my gosh, like, I don't know why I didn't think about this, but Claris is looking for a social worker, someone who has a BA or a master's in social work. And she was telling me all these things, and she goes, you fit all of the qualifications. And I was like, wow, okay. So I thought, all right, Lord, I heard, like, just walk through the door, see what's there, see what's on the other side of this. So I ended up applying, and then I got a call. And I did a phone interview, and then the next thing I know, they're asking me to come in to do in-person interview. And then the next thing I know, I'm meeting with the CEO and the vice president. And the way that it unfolded, the door just kept opening. It was one of those things. And it was funny because I would talk to friends and even Nancy too about like, well, is God, because, the doubt comes up and I still start to question. And is this really, and everybody around me was like, Laurie, the way that this has just unfolded and the ways that the doors have just opened and how God has really just provided so much. You've been asking about this for 2 years. You've been praying about this. And so I found myself saying yes. And I didn't know as much about Claris when I first got involved. I knew through Nancy some of what they did, but I was really excited about the counseling piece, and it was such a new opportunity for me to get to know a whole new population and for God to help me be of service to this whole other area that I still realize that I'm still working with children. Even I'm working with this baby that's inside. I'm advocating for the child and for the woman and for the father. I'm advocating for all of them, but I'm just advocating in a different way. It's because I was working with children and families at Children's, and God just brought me to this, and it's been such a gift to. There's been a lot of a learning curve over the last 5 months, but God has really been working muscles and growing me in ways that I think, how you feel like there were often times I was saying, God, I'm not equipped to do this. And I just kept hearing, I'm going to equip you. You are like, I'm equipping you day by day. I'm going to show you how to do this. Just keep showing up. Because I was scared. It was a new role. And, I was going from this job that I had been at, that I knew about. I knew this job. I knew what to do, to this sort of uncharted place. But it was so beautiful how God has really been working. And I've really gotten to see, I love the counseling piece too, that my heart is so working with people. My heart is so open to that. And I love sitting in a room with someone and just holding that space and seeing the light bulb go off or seeing them start in a place of confusion or fear. And then, like you said, Nancy, the guard starts to come down and they start to open up, and I am a guest in their life. They have invited me into their life. And I really take that seriously. Like, you have just invited me into your life. And I thank them at the end of the sessions. I say, thank you for talking to me. You don't know me from the next person, but I really appreciate you opening up. And it's such an honor and privilege to be able to be welcomed into the lives of these women and to also stand in a room and see an ultrasound and see the heartbeat of a baby and just watch these women who might be conflicted, might not, but just this space open up in them of like, that's my baby, and see this. Yeah. So it's been pretty cool. And I've really been feeling the Lord grow me and in really new ways that I never thought I would be here. Yeah.
That's so cool. It's so cool. So cool.
And she's doing great. She's doing great.
Thank you.
Okay. So that's super exciting. So, just incredible, so encouraging to hear. And I wanted to share from the other side of it, just what an incredible answer to prayer you are. I feel like we've talked about this a little bit, but, I don't know, maybe not quite a year ago, but a year ago, Nancy, we were talking about, so Nancy was in a similar role at Claris. I think the roles changed a little bit, but in a similar spot, and feeling the Lord calling to serve the church is as our counseling director and do that more full time. And the hesitation, the thing that we had the hardest time with was our love for Claris and for the work of Claris. And being like, I honestly felt bad taking Nancy from them. I'm like, I can't, it just was, and because there was a fear in, what what else is going to come next? Like, this works so well. Like, you're just such a servant and such a blessing to them. And it did, through prayer. In that same time came this sense that like the Lord was just like, I've got something in the works. Like, and you can't see it yet. And you don't know. But I want you to step in. And so we did, and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed that the Lord would both bring exactly the right person, and that the exact right person would shape and fit specifically what was needed. Like, the changes in the role even would be shaped by the exact right person. And you are such an incredible answer to that prayer.
Amen.
I mean, it's
Yeah,
right.
amen.
Praise God.
And it's so funny because she was in her job for 8 years, and I was pretty much, August would have been 8 years for me at Claris. And so we almost got at the same time this like Holy Spirit discerning, like a change is coming, and start praying for it almost at the same time. And then just switched over, and you stepped right in, and it is a really different role. And a lot of different things, because it's a nonprofit. There's a lot of things to learn, and she's done amazing stepping into that role.
Thank you.
It's so exciting. Sorry, so exciting to see, and so cool to see the Lord's hand, right? Each step of the way, and for what He has in store for the organization, but also just in store for our lives what these organizations are for, right? They provide platforms and open doors for us to be involved in people's lives, right? To a context where somebody might invite you into their life, into some of the most difficult moments of their life, so that you can be Christ's hands and feet. Like, what an incredible privilege and honor, and what a blessing that structures like this, kind of in our current, cultural moment, provide the context for that interpersonal care.
Right.
That we're called
And
to.
one of the neat things is, I think in January, there's the Sanctity of Life Sunday. And Claris goes out to so many different churches, different staff members go out, and they just speak just a mission statement of what they do and how important the church is as a support and a community. Because one of the things we try and do as another avenue of support is to direct these women into local churches where they are, because a lot of them have faith in their background. And although we don't preach to them, but we can ask them if they have any faith in their background. And if they do, we can support and encourage them to get back to a local church where they're also going to find tons of support. But on just the communications we have with different churches and support we have through different churches has also equipped churches in our community to have a totally different view of women who have struggled through abortion or are in these brand new pregnancies and needing extra support, that are single or without family, and many churches just coming alongside these women in their local areas. So Claris has had this like ripple effect into the churches of a community that's been huge.
Yeah. Which is it's just so exciting. So Laurie, you're going to be sharing on Sunday, right?
The 29th.
The 29th.
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay.
2 weeks, yes.
and so, but this is a kind of a longer version to give people like something to hear a little bit more about the heart behind it. And this is what I love. I mean, you're exactly right. It's this connection between an organization like Claris and the local church that is so powerful. And it's why it means so much to me that our church members are involved on the board as volunteers, as supporters, and on staff. It's such a privilege and incredible to see that connection, whether it's you in your role, whether it's Nikki Woolsey running the parenting support, and which has been just an incredible blessing and connection point where, again, because like you said, there's no one organization that can be the support system that people need for all the different struggles and aspects in life, but God has created the local church to be the community, to be the family, to be to be that. And so connection points in are so powerful, so important. So actually connected to that, I would love for you to share if people wanted to be more involved, right? Whether it's as a financial supporter or even I'm just thinking like interpersonally, like if they wanted to utilize this structure to be involved in the lives of men and women through their sexual health choices, what are some different ways people could be involved?
Well, they can definitely, there's definitely volunteer opportunities.
Yeah.
There's also financial opportunities. I mean, we recently did for the holidays adopt a family, which was amazing. And I wanted to adopt a family, and they were already adopted before Christmas. Or not before Christmas, before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
It was the first time in, I think, all the history of them doing the adoptive family that it's been done before Thanksgiving. Like all the families had been provided for.
It's incredible.
And I was like, Lord, I wanted to adopt a family, but you know what? God provided, God was faithful. And so you can do that. There's definitely opportunities. I mean,
so let's talk a little bit about, and I'm happy to brainstorm with you, but like some of the volunteer opportunities, right? Like, so on the prevention side, there's Reality Check, right? Which does sexual health education in high schools, middle schools,
Pretty much
pretty much that.
Yeah. Maybe sixth grade on, maybe a little bit early.
But, and so there's opportunities to teach and to help out with that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
If that's even something, if you're good up in front of people and like they have an incredible curriculum that we get equipped with, but if that's like a way that you want to help just convey to students the reality of their sexual health choices and what that means, how, especially in Christian settings, for how God and God's design for sexuality shapes that. There's opportunities there. There's opportunities. I feel like the opportunities in the clinic are more limited, but maybe there are.
A lot of it is more admin. I mean, if people want to come and help out with admin things,
totally.
We definitely, there's lots to do. Front desk stuff, doing stuff. We have a lot of donor reports that need to be done, things that sometimes if I'm doing patient advocacy, it's always really helpful to have an extra set of hands.
For sure.
We also get a lot of the local churches or people will want to donate their limitedly used things, or they go and buy and donate baby stuff and baby supplies and clothes, and some people that's how they want to get involved. Yeah. They want to be able to bring, or they'll donate their child's car seat, and it's pretty amazing.
Right. Yeah. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Do you ever use volunteers as client advocates anymore, or is those primarily staff positions?
Well, we do. I mean, it's open. It's open.
That's a pretty specialized.
Right. They would need to be trained.
Totally. That's a pretty specialized. But I mean, there's an opportunity.
There's an opportunity for that. Absolutely. Okay. If you want to do patient advocacy and work in the counseling section, that sector of working with the women, absolutely. There's definitely opportunities for that. We welcome that.
Yeah. And then on the parenting support side, there's all sorts of opportunities too.
Definitely. They have classes all the time.
Yeah.
And so people with like special skills like finances and budgeting or parenting or nutrition or holistic medicine or, how to use herbs and essential oils, or anything that would just be fun for the women and or instructive for the women to hear. They're always looking for people to come in and do special classes.
Cool. That's so cool. Yeah, it's just so exciting. And I think one of the things that I would encourage, even if you're listening, to think about is you consider whether it's opportunities like this with Claris or other places, but I think there's a way in which we can kind of settle into like a weird like volunteerism, right? We're like, okay, yeah, I'll help out. Like somebody needs help, I'll help out. But I would love for people to see, and even for our church family to see Claris, not just as like a place where you can help out, but as an opportunity to invest in relationships, right? To make personal connections, to be a resource. And maybe that's just, maybe it is, starts with just helping out and some administrative help, but maybe as a part of the administrative help, it's also connecting with the relationships, being a support for whether it's staff or other people there, and just engaging in a way that we're investing our lives in these spaces.
Yeah. Even down to answering the phones. Even just to train someone to take over answering the phones and putting women on the schedule or people on the schedule is huge, because the phone's ringing all the time.
Yeah.
And it takes a little bit of training, but anybody can learn it. And that's actually a constant need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, definitely.
At 2 different clinics.
Yeah, totally. Totally. Cool. Well, thank you guys so much for sharing both your hearts for Clarice and just your stories, the way that it's involved. I'm so excited for what the Lord's doing and excited for what lies ahead. So
Well, thank you for inviting us.
Thank you. This was wonderful.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you. And thank you all for listening. We love you, and we'll see you on Sunday.